India's energy needs are growing at a time when the country is seeking resources overseas. This has forced Indian energy firms to secure energy equity in a very competitive scenario. To learn more about the race for energy and various dimensions of energy security, we are joined by Michiel Soeting, Global Chairman Energy Natural Resources at KPMG. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
When we talk about price stability, where do we see this in the case of both in case of gas and crude oil? There have been talks about $100 is the reality. Where are we headed here from here?
I think we have to be very cautious. Only a decade ago, prices were approaching $10.
Right.
And most investments which have been materialized today are based on scenarios of $15 to $16, maybe 25, but not very higher. So I think if you look at it from a historic perspective, we need to be very careful with these predictions. Obviously, the market at the moment thinks around $80 is a fair price. Whether it goes down or will move toward 100, that's very tough to say at this stage. Clearly, a very important factor is what OPEC thinks, and clearly OPEC members think at the moment that $100 would be a good price to have.
The Iran-US crisis, which has been in the built up for quite a number of years now, in January we saw new sanctions coming in. How will this impact the global supplies?
Clearly, if you talk about crude oil capacity and production capacity, there are some hotspots in the world. You mentioned Iran, Nigeria may be one of them, and clearly the overall global supplies are quite sensitive to what happens in those countries. So I think political instability in these type of regions always will have an impact on the price.
When we talk about Iran and US, we have seen there are a lot of hot spots which have got quite the resources are there, to start with Sudan or Libya, and where there have been US sanction imposed. What this practically does is that no matter, even if the US companies are not being able to do business in these areas which are energy rich, even companies from other parts of the world, for example, the demand is to be led by China and India. A lot of Indian firms or Chinese firms are not able to access those resources. What are your views on that?
I think America is free to impose any policies or to establish any policy they see fit. I think the issue we see here is that if large countries like the US, but it could be Russia as well, if they initiate certain domestic policies, clearly there will be an impact for other countries, which in case of the US will have a lot of trade going on with the US. So I clearly any sanction is an impairment of free flow of goods, and in this case, free flow of crude. Some of the sanctions may be understandable. So for some of them, it's hard to see the rationale. But overall, I think it's something we need to live with.
When we talk about the demand for hydrocarbon reserves or resources coming from India and China, we also see a scenario where fastest growing economies in the world are also competing. There are very few opportunities around. What is the way forward for India or China?
Well, I think to put things in perspective, I think it's important to realize that clearly India and China will be a very dominant factor in the future given their growth scenario. But say as far as absolute volumes concerned, they're one of the players in the global economy. Clearly Europe and US have very significant demands as well. So if we talk about the security of energy for particular China and India, it's good to realize they're one of the players on the block.
When we talk about purely in a hydrocarbon play, who holds the key to it? Is it West Asia today, Russia, Venezuela? There have been new entrants who have been creating their own sphere of influence around. So who holds the key today?
That's very tough to answer. I probably, if you would ask my colleague in the 70s, they would definitely say the Middle East. I think with the advancement of technology, also in the application of gas, but also in the extraction of gas, and for example the gas shales in the US, which I think is a game changer for the gas markets in the years to come.
Isn't there an environment cost to it?
Clearly, there. Say if you, but the question was, is there a specific area in the country which holds the control or which can have the power play when it comes to energy resources? In short term, I think always We always can cut some supplies and disrupt distribution. In the long term, I think if you look at the globe, we find energy resources all over the globe. There's no exclusive pocket or geographic area which hold all the resources.
Thanks a lot for joining us, and
Welcome.
it was a pleasure talking to you.